Hi, my name is Miriam, and this is my persuasive speech about the dangers of banning books. My love for books really started in elementary school, but continued into middle and high school. I loved reading romance books, classical literature, mystery novels, and above all, dystopian novels, not unlike a lot of other people that I know. Many of the books that I enjoyed, and you probably have also enjoyed, are currently being banned in public schools and are no longer being able to be in libraries or being taught by teachers. These include Hunger Games, the Giver, and The Handmaid's Tale. It's important for students to be able be taught to critically engage with what they're reading, especially in English classes and in school. Throughout this speech, I'm going to discuss the ethical issues with denying students choices. I'm going to go over which books are being banned and why, and the legal and unconstitutional nature of book banning in public high schools. So let's start off with which books are being banned and why. This really all has to do with censorship. The governments and the school boards that are banning books are trying to control how students are being able to interact with the world and what type of media and what type of information they're able to receive. Censorship can be really dangerous, it can be really alienating, and it can be really controlling in how people perceive the world. So here's a list of banned books. You can kind of go over that. I'm going to touch on a few and why they're being banned. So, for example, The Hunger Games, which is a very common book series that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of or watched the movies. This was written by Susan Collins. When she was watching TV, she was flicking through channels. She was seeing coverage of the Met Gala, and then she was seeing coverage of children dying in wars in the Middle East. And she just really included both of these and really came up with the idea of the Hunger Games. Those books are commonly being challenged and banned in the United States. The Handmaid's Tale, which touches on bodily autonomy and women not being able to control the decisions being made about their bodies. That's really public right now and can be seen as political commentary due to Roe v. Wade being overturned a few years ago. The Grapes of Wrath has been banned in many schools in California, and due to negative portrayals of the agricultural industry. Fahrenheit 41, which is literally about banning books and removing literature, that is being banned. And like I said, The Giver, which is really all about censorship, is also being banned. A few other titles that are on my screen here have to do with LGBTQ identities, sexual identities, and a few other things. Slaves, African American people and their experiences, and all of these books are being challenged or banned across multiple different school districts across the entire United States. So this really brings us into the ethical issues, where this comes to censorship and into the separation of church and state. So by banning books, we're disencouraging students to engage critically with media. We are not only stopping creativity, but we're also not allowing students to make up their own mind about what they're reading. We're also forcing public teachers and students to adhere to specific political thinking. Most of these laws and book bannings are geared towards are created by conservative or Republican standpoints. But personally, I think that all banning books is bad because people should be able to adhere to both different sides. Books that are being banned by conservative governments, but Christian ideologies are being placed in public education. In Texas, there are certain school districts that are trying to implement the 10 Commandments into public classrooms. They're also trying to have the Bible be something that is taught not just as a book that we need to critically engage with, but as something that we need to follow in public schools. This really brings me into my next point about the legal and unconstitutional issues with banning books in public high schools. Um, like I said, we are doing this type of thing where we are including religion back into public schools. Separation of church and state is a founding principle of the United States, and freedom to practice religion is also part of our Constitution. By pushing certain ideologies and certain things and removing other media, that is really infringing on people's freedom of speech and the freedom to practice what they wish. Like I said, the First Amendment is the freedom of speech, and by not allowing students to and teachers to read and teach about the books that they want to, as long as they are appropriate for high school students, really infringes upon that. Um, so, to conclude, here are my resources if you'd like to check them out. To conclude, students should be taught to critically engage with media, including books, and should be encouraged to read literature from many points of view. I've explained why banning books, controlling students' engagement by withholding certain novels, and the ethical dilemmas in banning books, and the legal and unconstitutional issues with these laws. When moving forward, I hope that you'll continue to enjoy banned books and use it as a reading list, which is what I do, and consider discussing these issues with your representatives. Call your representatives. And that's all I've got.